Hi, I'm Ryan from Mastery Fractional CFO Services. I'm the founder and CEO of Mastery, and today I'm going to be talking about something that our clients have some challenges with on a fairly regular basis, and this has to do with sales forecasting. Now, to be clear, my company is a fractional CFO company, so we take on the executive financial leadership for our clients. We look after the finance side of the business in alignment with the rest of the business, but we're working typically with the CEO and any other key stakeholders in the business to try to help them drive overall better financial results and to achieve their vision of success, whatever that might be. And when we work with an organization, something that is immediately apparent is that to be successful on the financial side of the business, you need to be successful, or you need to have efficiency and effectiveness in other parts of the business. And so we're talking about sales and marketing, operations, and finance. Those are the three legs of the stool that business success rests upon. And so when we're working on cleaning up the finance part of the business, we look after all of the details. But what I want to get to is the fact that sales and sales forecasting are a critical part of the business. Sales is the engine that drives the rest of the train in a business. And there's different ways of looking at sales, and there's different ways of talking about sales. You can call it business development, sales and marketing. You may, in your line of work, in your business, the emphasis may be more on advertising than it is on sales. But at the end of the day, one of the things we always want to be able to do is to properly plan and budget and forecast for a business. And to do that, we need to know what the revenue for the business is likely to be. And that's the sales forecast. I'm going to call it sales forecast here for simplicity. What I'm going to do here is share my screen. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through a presentation that I find is very useful for my clients. It's going to help us outline what we want to focus on from a business development point of view in order to drive better financial results. This isn't a sales lesson, as you're going to see, but it ties into what we need to have happen in a business in order for the financial results to get better. Okay. Sales forecasting, top down and bottom up. Sales forecasting helps you build a compelling financial narrative that inspires stakeholder confidence. You use it to forecast, to create clear expectations and detailed actionable plans. The process will enable you to align strategy with execution, because strategy, as important as it is, strategy is one side of a two-sided coin. Execution is the other side of that coin, and it's required for a strategy to be any good. The sales forecasting process. Okay, the sales forecasting process, we're going to talk about it from 2 points of view, top down and bottom up. Top down is where the executive team sets targets based on company goals and insights. And so this is usually where a company will start. The executive team, the CEO of the business, the owner of the business, knows in his or her head that they need sales. They need to generate revenue in order for there to be a business. And so they set some targets and they set goals and they decide, hey, what do we want to do? What do we think we're going to do in this next year or this next quarter or this next month in terms of generating revenue? And it's important to know that, because when you're budgeting, which is a key component of the financial process, you need to understand when the revenue is going to come in, and you need to understand when the money is going to be going out and what you're going to be spending it on. That's all part of the overall strategy. And a forecast turns that strategy into numbers. And the top line number that you need to know is the sales forecast. Okay, so you generate a revenue forecast, and the executive of the business does that. You want to consider revenue from existing customer base. If you have current clients, you want to build in that revenue. You want to consider rate increases. If you've got clients that have been around for more than a year, at some point you're going to want to give them a rate adjustment based on inflation. You want to keep up with inflation. You want to consider upselling to existing customers. If you have clients that could potentially take on more services from you or buy more products from you or both, you want to look at what that might be in terms of an impact to the sales forecast in the next period upcoming. You want to look at cross-selling, very similar. A good example of a cross-sell is you go to McDonald's and you order a burger and they say, would you like fries with that? You're cross-selling some of the things to a current customer that they may not have bought already. Whereas upselling would be if they want to buy one burger, you offer them two burgers or three burgers. It's that kind of a scenario. So customer churn, you also want to factor this in. Not every client that you've got is going to be a client in perpetuity. Some businesses go out of business, some businesses evolve and change and they require different services. There may be some clients that you don't want to continue to service, and so you cut them off. But every year there's going to be some churn. Plan for that. Make sure you've got that built into your revenue expectations so that you're not surprised in a bad way. Revenue from prospects. So these are companies that aren't yet clients of yours. You want to understand that if you're going to be building and scaling your business, you're going to want to be able to go out and find new clients. And so you want to forecast for that too. You put that all together and that's your revenue forecast, as long as you lay it out month by month or quarter by quarter, but you want to understand when the revenue is going to hit on the budget as well. Now, it's important that you identify your lead measures for revenue growth. This isn't just an exercise in wishing and hoping. You want to understand what sales-related activities are predictive of our revenue and are influenceable. What things can we go and do to go and get more business? For example, placing an ad or advertising, that might be a lead measure. Okay, but you want to start to get a handle on that because you want to execute on the strategy. If there be ads or anything else you want to plan for these things, you want to schedule them into your project plan or your execution plan, and you want to track and manage as you go. Are we doing what we need to do to get the sales that we want to get? You have to make that all part of the business strategy and execute upon that strategy. And then you want to do a bottom-up sales forecast. Now, this is where you get your sales team. Now, if you're a small business, you might not have a sales team, and this part of it may not be applicable. But as your business grows and scales, this becomes a huge part of it, because what the executive wants to happen and what the sales team is expecting to do to make it happen are often out of alignment. And so this is a big part of the process as you begin to grow and you have members on your sales team. You want to make sure that each individual member sets their own targets and goes through the same process of understanding what's my current client base, my own personal book of business. When am I going to be getting rate increases from my clients? And I have to commit to that. I don't want to forget about it because the executive team is asking me to build this sales forecast, and I want to make sure I'm showing them what I'm planning on doing this year. If I don't put enough into my forecast, I'm going to hear about it, right? So I want to be diligent and I want to show that I'm a professional here. I want to look at upselling. What can I commit to in upselling? Or if I have a client that I think is going to grow organically, I think they're going to need more of our services. And so I want to schedule that in as to when I think that's going to happen and how much. If I think that there's a customer at risk for some reason, I want to identify that now so that the management team, the executive team understands we may be losing this client, not through any fault of my own, but we need to put that into the budget and we can talk about it if the management team wants. As well, revenue from new prospects. So I know that my job as a salesperson or a business development person is to go out and get new business from new clients. I've got a plan for that. I'm going to put what I expect to achieve in my forecast. And if you've got 10 salespeople and they each do this, you put all of their numbers together and that gives you your bottom-up sales forecast. So you've got your top-down sales forecast from the executive, your bottom-up sales forecast from your sales team. Now, generally, there's going to be a gap. What the executive wants often is going to be a lot more than what the sales team has committed to generating. And that's where you get into some constructive discussion. And you have to decide how to bridge the gap. So some typical strategies that can be employed. Training and development for the staff. Some of the salespeople may be on the newer side and you need to develop them a little bit, or maybe they're using software to get their job done and you have to give them some training and development with respect to the software so they become more proficient with it. Technological enhancements can help the sales team. A sales team might say, hey, listen, I can sell more, but you're going to have to help me here. We need better equipment like our competitors have, or whatever the case might be. But you can have this discussion, and now's the time to have it in advance of the year. Once the year is done and you haven't hit your revenue targets, it's too late to make a change to that. But in this sense, going through this process, you're being proactive and you can make a change in advance. Marketing and advertising investments can help all of the salespeople do do better, and they might have some really good feedback regarding what they believe the company should do, and the executive team can consider that. Compensation plans, how salespeople are compensated, can be performance-based to a large degree, and that can help a sales team perform better. Previous trends and baselines can provide insights, and there are other plans to improve the company's business development that can be discussed here and worked on at budget time, sales forecasting time. Ultimately, what you're going to want to do is come to a conclusion where the executive team says, yes, we think that this number is now correct, and the sales team says, yes, we think we can deliver upon this number. So you've got vision lock on what the revenue forecast should be. That's what you put in the budget. Okay, in terms of what a bottom-up sales forecast can look like, I've got on the screen here an example where you've got existing customers. This would be salesperson number one. Salesperson number one is going to show what they're expecting from their existing customers, and depending on your industry, it may look a little bit different. But recurring revenue on a month-by-month basis from customer number one is listed on the top row there. When the annual rate increase kicks in and how much it's going to be is listed in the second row, the green row. Expected organic growth is listed, upselling, cross-selling. It's showing customer one, showing customer two. It could be way more than two customers. And then down below, it's showing prospect number one. New regular recurring revenue, when you think it's going to hit, expected organic growth, upselling expected, cross-selling expected, and to these new prospects. You would list that all out, add it all up, and put it all together with your overall sales forecast. Going back for a second, forgive me for jumping around a little bit here, but a big part of why this process is so important is not just to get the revenue forecast, it's to drive accountability in the sales team and to provide strong communication channels between the executive and the sales team. We'll circle back to this, but consider that. It's a strong, important point. Okay, lead measures. Well, what are they? I mentioned lead measures a bit earlier. Measures of activities that are predictive and influenceable. They're the measures that drive sales. You need info that can be readily obtained. So if it's in data tables, that's much better than if it's just hearsay. You want to simplify complex data as much as possible. I'll give you an example in a moment, so this makes a bit more sense. You want to look for quick wins. You want to separate out the employee activity performance measure based on what the employee can control. The idea here is trying to get your salespeople to do what you know they need to do in order to drive results. Okay, and you want to use these measures to plan, track, and manage the sales division. And here's an example of a sales pipeline. Pretty simple, but you've got the activity performed is, in this case, cold calls. Now, they're the lead measure. You've also got sales meetings, proposal presentations, and then ultimately new deals. Now, sales meetings and proposal presentations are activities, but they are not necessarily within the employee's control or the salesperson's control. The salesperson can't just say, I want to do more sales meetings and have that happen. What they need to do, the lead measure, the root cause of sales meetings is cold calls in this case, in this example. So the lead measure is cold calls. So the goal of a cold call is to book a sales meeting. We know from experience in this example that on average, 100 cold calls will result in 10 sales meetings. That's a conversion rate of 10%. All right, so this step of the sales pipeline, cold calling, with a conversion rate of 10% generates 10 sales meetings. Okay, so we've got now, let's go to the next step of the sales cycle. We're at the 10 volume of sales meetings. Our conversion rate, we know based on our historical data, is 40%. So in other words, out of 10 sales meetings, we convert 40% of them, which generates 4 proposal presentations. Okay. We have a 25% close rate on proposal presentations, which is here. Okay. We know that, so if we have 4 proposal presentations, we're going to close at least one of them. That's going to generate a new deal. Deal is going to result in revenue, 100% chance of that. And so if you trace it backwards, we're saying 100 cold calls will generate 1 new deal on average, statistically speaking. Now, there may be variances between salespeople, and things may not be like this in all cases, but we can develop a pretty good understanding of what our conversion rates are in our sales cycle if we're looking at data and tracking data. And so in this example, it assumes that you know what they are. If you know the key metrics that drive revenue for your business, You can plot them out and create your sales pipeline like this with conversion rates. By identifying and managing lead indicators, like the cold calling in this example, the lead measures, you can manage to your sales forecast. If you know we need, whatever the number is, 500 cold calls to hit our revenue target this month based on our statistics, then you can begin to work on with the salespeople. The management team can work with the salespeople saying, hey, you need to make at least this many cold calls. Make sure that that's your priority. Make sure that you understand that is the job. And you need to convert at our current rates. Now, if you're not able to convert 10% of the cold calls into 10 sales meetings, then you need to address what it is you're doing or not doing, right? So that becomes incumbent upon the salesperson to make sure that they're making the cold calls, that they're converting them properly. They have to make quality cold calls. And this puts the accountability where it needs to be on the salespeople. This is not the sales pipeline for every business out there, but we can always talk about you and your pipeline, what that looks like, and your conversion rates and how to manage that. Now, in this slide, what we're showing here is the example of an impact calculation. So when we're looking at leading indicators, I like to understand, and I like my clients to come to understand, what's the impact of changes to their leading indicators. So in this example, we're talking about the financial KPI or key performance indicator that we're tracking and looking at is revenue. Now, revenue is a lagging indicator. It's the result of something that happens elsewhere in the business. And as a CFO, that's something that I'm always helping my clients get clear on, is that in order for the financial results to get better or to improve or to begin to look like the business wants them to look, changes in other parts of the business need to occur. And this is an example of that. So the financial KPI here is revenue. The leading indicator that we're going to focus on in this impact calculation is the sales conversion. And we're going to try to increase our sales conversion from 20% to 25%. So we make an impact calculation just to understand what the impact is going to be. If a company gets 100 leads per month at an average deal size of $5,000, their current revenue is 100 leads times 20% conversion times $5,000 per deal. That's $100,000. So they can expect $100,000 of revenue based on 100 leads per month if their conversion rate is 20%. Now, if they improve their conversion rate to 25%, the revenue increases as well. Now, in this case, you've still got 100 leads, but your conversion rate is 25% times $5,000 equals $125,000. Okay, so your result is a 5% improvement in conversion rates leads to a $25,000 increase in revenue per month. Now, recognize the direct financial impact of improving sales behavior rather than just looking at revenue. This is the conversion part of the behavior, but how do we convert more of our clients? How can I become a better salesperson? What do my clients need to know in order to make the right business decision, which is to work with us? And that kind of a thinking is really what you're trying to get at here. It is the conversion rate is a leading indicator, something that is to some degree within the control of the salesperson. And this is a good example of how tweaking your conversion rates and understanding your sales pipeline and understanding the impact it will have on your finances. This is all part of the overall strategy for a business. And it's all part of what I do as a CFO to help my clients be more effective. So understand your sales pipeline and funnel. Map it out. Understand your conversion rates at each stage, even if you have to estimate. Set activities for the salespeople and targets. We want you to make 100 cold calls. We want you to have a 20% conversion rate for each cold call, or whatever the case might be. And then you want to manage to them. Okay, after the month's done, you go back, and if you've hit your revenue target, great. Look at which salespeople hit the target. Some may have exceeded the target, some may have underperformed, and you might want to manage by exception. But if you are on target, there's a little bit less to do. If you're finding that you're behind and you're not making your revenue targets, then you try to analyze what the situation was. You can talk to your salespeople and say, did you make 100 cold calls? If not, why not? If so, great. But then where did it go wrong? You can manage to that and try to solve problems in advance of the end of the fiscal year. And then you can develop systems and processes to facilitate improvement. If some salespeople are doing really well and others aren't, then you can find out what are the people who are doing well doing differently. Let's maybe implement some of those best practices across the board with the other salespeople. There's a whole lot you could potentially do here when you're managing actively like this. A lot of insights will become available. Here on this slide, you want to look at what you planned versus what actually happened. And you can do this even daily. Hey, are we having a good day today? Did you make 100 cold calls? No, you only made 50? Like hello, what happened? Oh, our phone wasn't working. Well, let's fix that. You know, but you can figure out why are we doing well or why aren't we doing well. Make sure you're really on track and stay on track. You can look at variances between salespeople, like I mentioned. And there may be insights there. You can establish benchmarks, best practices, and targets for improvement. And you can use management tools such as training and development, process improvements, compensation plans. Marketing and advertising can help facilitate these things. And by virtue of having this plan versus actual feedback, you can start to be very proactive and very effective with respect to generating better revenue and achieving your sales forecast, which is going to help you achieve your budget, which is going to help you achieve ultimately your goals. Why this works: it prevents reactive financial management. You fix problems before they hit the financials. You create a sense of control. You act on operational metrics daily rather than waiting for month-end reports. Drives accountability. Team members understand how their actions directly impact financial performance. I don't want to underemphasize how important this is, that the people on the front line, like the salespeople in this presentation, they need to feel accountability for the results. It's terrible if at the end of the year, the executive team is wringing their hands around the boardroom table going, geez, we didn't hit our forecast. We didn't get our sales. Why not? You know, and if the salespeople don't even realize there's a problem, that's not good. But if 1 month in, the salespeople realize they need to make more cold calls, then it really makes for a better situation for the executive team, because the accountability needs to be spread out across the entire business. It delivers faster results. Instead of waiting months for financial results, you can make progress in weeks. So business success rests on 3 legs in alignment, all strong: operations, sales or sales and marketing, and finance and accounting. Okay, so that's a look at sales forecasting for my CFO playbook. I hope you found this presentation insightful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you about you and your business. Thanks.